India contains some of the oldest and most diverse natural ecosystems on the planet. For centuries, these vast jungles thrived untouched, but modern industrial and agricultural expansion began creeping steadily into the wilderness, threatening to collapse these habitats entirely. To halt that ecological collapse, the Indian government enacted the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. It was designed as a strict, desperate legal shield to save what remained of the country's natural heritage. The 1972 legislation physically divided the wilderness into distinct, legally fortified zones. As the diagram shows, each zone dictates exactly how close human expansion is allowed to get to the flora and fauna. Conservation at this scale relies on the geometric separation of human ambition from ecological preservation. The first tier of this defensive spectrum is the Wildlife Sanctuary. You can think of it as a buffer zone. The defining operational rule of a sanctuary is partial protection. It is a space where human and animal life cautiously intersect. Because the protection is only partial, local populations retain specific rights. Human activities are strictly limited, but practices like grazing livestock and collecting dry wood are legally permitted to sustain the people living on the edges. As we see in this wetland ecosystem, where a flock of painted storks is actively foraging, many of these zones are highly specialized. Sanctuaries like Keoladeo and Nal Saravar serve specifically as crucial havens for migratory birds. Sanctuaries are zones of regulated compromise. If you need a quick trick to remember the rules, just remember that in a sanctuary, some people are allowed. That brings us to the second, much stricter tier of the spectrum, the national park. If we look at the legal boundaries side by side, the contrast is clear. Unlike a sanctuary, a national park enforces absolute protection. Human activities like hunting, grazing, and logging are entirely outlawed. There is zero overlap. The easiest mnemonic device to lock this absolute restriction into your memory is simple. NP equals no people. India established its first national park, Jim Corbett, back in 1936. Today, there are over 106 of these protected areas across the country. These parks span a massive geographical diversity. You have the absolute smallest park, South Button in the Andamans, and you have this, the vast, harsh, and snowy mountain valley of Hemis National Park in Ladakh. It's a colossal, high-altitude expanse and the largest park in India. These strict, impenetrable borders act as the final, untouchable strongholds for India's most endangered apex predators. Many of these parks are geographically tailored to specific species. Look at these two Barasinga locking horns in the water. These swamp deer thrive specifically because the dense forests of Kanha in Madhya Pradesh are protected for them. Moving over to Gujarat, this resting Asiatic lion represents a species holding on to its very last terrestrial fortress, the Gir forest. This heavy, armored profile belongs to a solitary rhino standing in the tall grass. The floodplains of Kaziranga in Assam are fiercely protected precisely to guarantee the survival of this one-horned rhinoceros. And in West Bengal, the Sundarbans acts as a unique dual-purpose fortress. Exposed along the riverbank at low tide, this dense network of spike-like breathing roots, called pneumatophores, allows the mangrove trees to survive in waterlogged soil. This entire ecosystem is protected to save both the mangroves themselves and the Bengal tigers that hunt within them. To secure these habitats, the government enacted massive, targeted survival protocols inside these borders. Project Tiger in 1973, Project Elephant in 1992, and Project Rhino. The strict rules of a national park act as vital blueprints, engineered specifically for the survival of the species that rule them. This expanding diagram illustrates the final, largest umbrella tier of protection, the Biosphere Reserve. It is a macro system. The solid inner circle is the strict core of a national park, surrounded by the dashed circle of a sanctuary acting as a shared buffer, all nested within a larger transition zone for human activity. It all comes back to the distinction between strict core protection and partial buffer protection. Mastering these definitions provides the legal architecture required to keep the planet's most majestic species from fading into history.